We've come to the final skill set that most salespeople dread, closing. The reason why they dread it is because this is the moment that most feel that they're going to be rejected, and nobody likes to be rejected. But through the entire selling by design process, hopefully we're going to minimize your opportunity to be rejected. If we go back and think about how we got here, we first got here through making sure we qualified and looked at our prospects carefully and said, or our customers properly and carefully and said, these are the guys or gals that are most likely to buy our product. Immediately 50% of the population went away because we could zero in on whether or not these folks were actually going to be ours. Next, we proposed the agenda. And by proposing an agenda, and remember we said what we were going to do, we shared with them the value on why it's important that we're together, and then we asked them whether or not they had anything else to talk about or wanted to talk about, and if it was also okay that we moved forward. And the answer was yes. So we had them saying yes right out of the gate. Then we began asking questions and have them answer as open and freely as possible. Why did we do that? Because we wanted to make sure we understood the entire landscape. We want to know all the options. We want to know everything that we potentially were going to run into as an issue. We began then to zero that down. And we zeroed it down going from those 30,000 foot questions down to 15,000 feet to 5,000 feet. And then finally we started using closed questions right near the ground, right at that 1,000 to 2,000 foot level, to make sure that we could hone in exactly on what people were talking about. That set the stage for us to make sure that we only supported with the right features and benefits, emphasizing benefits because we were taking care of the emotional needs that people had. And as a result, they're not going to say no to necessarily to an emotional need getting fixed. They want the monkey off their back. They want this problem solved. They want a solution to whatever they're dealing with. And we happen to have it. So we got a yes there as well. We got them saying, yeah, that's exactly what we're looking for, and this is exactly what we're needing at this stage. So closing is the natural next step. And most folks look at closing and say, I got to make the sale. I got to get my order taken and a dollar amount putting down. While that's true in some organizations, in most situations that I've dealt with in the sales world, I'm finding that closing is really the next step in the relationship. Whether it is a sale at that point in time, or it's an extension of this conversation at another time, or it's am I able to send you some marketing information and then follow up with you in a week or two. It might be as simple as, can I come back? You never know. But the reality is, closing is just asking to take the next step together and then asking if that's okay. And sometimes the next step is just, can I come back? But oftentimes we get freaked out about it. And I want to share with you again this whole concept of the ball that we had. Remember that power exchange that was going on in the opening skill set, where we passed the ball back and forth. I gave the agenda, I passed it off to the customer said, I accept your agenda, and you send it back. The same thing is going to happen in this set. In the closing skill set, we review the benefits that we just got done discussing in the supporting skill set. We then ask, is it okay if we take the next steps together? And then we pass it off and say, are you okay with that? Checking for acceptance. And if they pass the ball back and say, absolutely, let's move forward, we just invited them into this process, and it's a natural process. And it's exactly where they wanted to be. It is a parallel skill set. Now, I'm going to share with you one of the pitfalls that people have. One of the pitfalls that people have in the closing skill set is the law number 3 of sales. The law number 3 in sales is that he who speaks first loses. So the pitfall that a lot of salespeople have is they'll ask for the order and they will not have the discipline to sit and wait for the response. Because psychologically there's a lot going on. Psychologically that customer, that prospect, is beginning to process what they're saying yes to. They're understanding whether or not it's going to have an impact on their business and in what way, and in some ways that we may not even know about. Maybe there's internal politics, maybe there's some financial issues, there might be a whole lot of stuff that's going on within that person's mind at that one moment when you say, will you take this product or service? The other thing that comes into play is pricing, and whether or not they're going to sit back and say, can I really afford this, and can I afford to be wrong? Those are all issues that are going to be rolling through their mind at this stage of the game when you ask for that order. So the interesting thing is that if you violate the law of he who speaks first loses, you give them a way out. For instance, this is how it could go. I've got my ball. My ball is, I'm going to ask you for the order. So would you, for $793, you can take this product and it's going to do some wonderful stuff. What do you think? If I pass that off to my customer and they ponder and they reflect and they think this through, I need to sit here and not say anything. But if I do happen to interject and say, boy, looks like you're thinking about a lot of stuff, then all of a sudden this ball comes right back to me. And he's going to say, you're right, I am. I think I need a couple of weeks to make this decision. And as a result, we just let him out the door. And it happens so frequently. And it's because we as salespeople, we get very uncomfortable with silence. And we have to become comfortable with it. There are going to be legitimate times when they look at you and say, I got to stall. I got to think this thing through. I got to go check internally. I've got some folks, some owners maybe that I have to run this by. Those are all legitimate reasons. So your next steps may be, when is a good time to check back? How much time do you need to talk to those folks? And when can I call you back and check this out? Again, it's one of those closings that is not the order, but it's, can we move this relationship forward? And there are going to be times when you're going to get the answer no. And that's legitimate as well. Maybe there are some things that are going on that you don't know about, and frankly, they can't say yes. But I'm going to share with you a little story. The biggest sale I ever made in my life happened on a golf course in southern Minnesota. It was for $1.7 million. And we were golfing with a good friend of mine became a good friend of mine, a good client at the time, and his name was Skip. And Skip and I had been golfing for the first 16 holes of this particular game, and it was now the 17th hole, and I was feeling pressure to ask for the order. We teed off, we began walking up the fairway, and I asked for the order. And Skip didn't say a word. We closed out that hole, we teed off on the 18th, we were walking up to the green, and he is still not saying a word. And I was listening to the words of a mentor of mine in the world of sales, and those words were the same words I just shared with you. He who speaks first loses. He sunk his putt on the 18th. I sunk mine. We walked off the green, and he looked at me and he said, let's do this. This makes sense. It was the greatest example of this law coming into play that I ever had. And I am so thankful that I got that lesson on the 18th green.